Zack Snyder has created quite the buzz on the internet for the last few weeks, and I've seen these stories going around. Haven't really said much about it because he just keeps posting stuff. He's either teasing everyone and causing an uproar, or he is really throwing out breadcrumbs for something that is to come. I don't really know. I can't make heads or tails. I keep hearing people say the Snyderverse is coming back. Snyder's doing this, Snyder's doing that because he posted this, and you see that, and you see this. I don't know, but this definitely did get my attention right here. This one got me mainly because The Dark Knight Returns is widely heralded as one of the greatest Batman stories and a turning point for storytelling in the Batman comic books in general. It's celebrated by many people. Zack Snyder teases Batman The Dark Knight Returns. Now, even though that's the title of the article, this is what it says. Whether this is really something being teased by him or not remains to be seen. It's hard to know. It really is hard to know. Okay, Zack Snyder just dropped another image stirring speculation, and this time it points directly to Batman. The photo shows Snyder's workbench filled with pottery jars, but eagle-eyed fans quickly spotted something tucked in the corner, a copy of Frank Miller's iconic graphic novel, The Dark Knight Returns. And if you look, it's like center left on the photo, you'll kind of see The Dark Knight Returns. Look, I know that stuff like this doesn't really get posted just out of nowhere. And I know a lot of times, especially with posts like this, there can be hidden meaning. Maybe there's not hidden meaning, but it is interesting that he posts this with that in the back. He has to know. Zack Snyder posts something, people are going to have thoughts about what they believe is coming. And so with that in mind, it's kind of hard for me to look at this and not say to myself, okay, Zack Snyder must be like quietly announcing things, even though he's not literally announcing it. It's like a soft announce. That is kind of what it seems like. So it goes on to say, Snyder has long expressed interest in adapting the story in a comic accurate way. See below. With recent buzz around Netflix acquisition of Warner Bros. Discovery, some fans are wondering if this tease is more than just a coincidence. And I didn't think that deal was settled. I thought that there was like some kind of battle between them and Paramount, because I know Paramount, they tried to do, I guess you would, I don't know if you consider it a hostile bid, hostile takeover. I don't know how you quantify that, where they offered cash for stocks. And I think they offered a significant amount above what Netflix was offering last time I checked, but I don't know, what's been shaken out with that. Sources tell us that Snyder wants Ben Affleck as Batman and that Affleck is open to returning under the right circumstances. And even though I'm unorthodox, my opinion is not the majority opinion. I wasn't a huge fan of Ben Affleck as Batman, but I will say this. I was looking back at some images from the Dark Knight Returns comic book, and I said, you know what? Ben Affleck's build, his age, and everything about him actually fit perfectly that depiction of Batman from The Dark Knight Returns, because in The Dark Knight Returns, Batman is older. He's an older man. I think somewhere in his 50s, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. We're also hearing Snyder's recent wave of Justice League era behind the scenes images is more than just nostalgia, as he's reportedly testing fan response, which has been overwhelmingly positive. I mean, I think it goes without saying, if anyone believes that Zack Snyder is returning to finish his Snyderverse Justice League superhero arc, I think everyone would be on board with that personally. I know you have some people who just don't like Snyder at all, but I think the majority of people would look forward to seeing that. Could a live action Dark Knight Returns be next on Snyder's list at Netflix? Ben Affleck's new movie with Matt Damon, The Rip, happens to be at Netflix. Affleck also has the Batsuit fully on display at their studio. Interesting. If Paramount happens to nab WBD, okay, so they did mention a Paramount deal. WBD, we're told the Snyderverse could be fully back in play. There will be many people happy with that right there. Back in December of 2023, Zack Snyder did say he would end his superhero career with The Dark Knight Returns. If you look at Watchmen, where Alan Moore took like basically iconographic characters that you could superimpose over a lot of, if Night Owl is Batman and Dr. Manhattan has Supermanish qualities, you can make all these different sorts of archetypal hero analysis over the top of those heroes, Snyder said at the time. Snyder continued, the thing about Dark Knight Returns is it is literally Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, and the deconstruction is so obvious and so palpable. For me, it was like comics grew up in a single moment. When I read that book, I was completely laid bare. Everything I thought about superheroes, I was completely laid bare. Everything I thought about superheroes. For me, it's the greatest comic book ever written. If I could do that, then I will have done Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, and I would be pretty much done with superheroes. So I guess that's his pinnacle of books if he could do that. Who knows? Who knows? Is Zack Snyder really hinting at some things to come? It's very possible. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, oh, yes, for sure, Zack Snyder's saying this is coming. It might be. And if it is, if he does the Dark Knight Returns, I think it will be a great movie. Seeing what his vision was for the Justice League and that whole Snyderverse, I was actually excited to see that thing finished. When I saw the director's cut of Justice League, and I've mentioned this before, I watched the whole thing entirely all the way through, and I was entertained from the time it began to the time it ended, and it made me wonder why they scrapped all of that stuff, because apparently all of that stuff was already done. And I could not understand why that was scrapped for the theatrical release we got, because I don't think the theatrical release was as good as that. It wasn't terrible, but when I saw the director's cut, I was like, oh, this is the one they should have had in theaters. Anyway, The Dark Knight Returns. Man, maybe they are working on this. Who knows?